let's go through the NFC and AFC. I'll pick divisions, and then I'll pick my wild cards. I was tempted, like I said, the Raiders, the Broncos. Could I go like the Packers? This might be pretty boring. I went a lot of chalk. Let's start with the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs have won the division every single year since Peyton Manning left the NFL. That is 2 Alex Smith seasons. They have been winning the AFC West since the middle of the 2010s, right? So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I'm obviously recording this probably less than 48 hours away from their first game. A little weird. Travis Kelce gets injured. Their best defensive player is holding out. You would have to be insane to not pick the Chiefs to win this division. Until they don't win the division, I'm picking them. I just am. So I'm going Kansas City. Andy Mahomes, I trust. The AFC South. People thought I was being too hard on the Titans, and over the course of the month, I would agree they are much feistier than I've probably given them credit for. They're more likely to win 8-9 games probably than 3 or 4. I will admit that. And Vrabel, anytime you have a fantastic coach, you are a threat. But the Jags have a coach who out-dueled Belichick in the Super Bowl. So the Jags coach is real. And their quarterback, I think, is going to be like in the MVP consideration. I'm taking the Jags. So I'm going Chiefs, Jags. This is my favorite pick. I think this team, and I'm not alone. I've seen a lot of love for this team. I think definitely has a chance to compete for the number 1 seed. I think is a 12-plus win team. I think defensively they are going to be elite. And I think offensively they are going to build off the way they finished last year. And I'm not even the biggest Kenny Pickett guy coming out of the draft. But talk to Cam Hayward this offseason. He believes in him. He just has to be solid. Like, once your team is really good, you don't, obviously you would love Mahomes or Josh Allen, but like, you can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can win with Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. You can win with a quarterback that's somewhere between 10 and 15. And if he's able to function in that world, because they got talent everywhere, their offensive line should be vastly improved. Even if Najee Harris is not the player that I once thought he would be, they have the other guy, Warren, who's going 95 miles an hour. We know they got wide receivers. And again, defense. So I'm taking the Steelers in the North and the East. You know, I went all in on them in the offseason and in the summer. And then I started watching Hard Knocks. I'm like, well, they can't block a soul. And then I realized, like, what if they just have the best defense in the league? They are a top 5 rushing team. And oh, yeah, they don't have one of the best quarterbacks of all time. They have one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time, who, let's face it, has a lot of credit he can earn. We saw it with Tom Brady. And I know the argument is the Bucs offensive line when Tom got there was much better. I agree. And definitely much more reliable. But what Tom had that year, and remember, it was rocky early because him and Arians weren't on the same page. They had to figure out their offense. When you're great and you got a chip on your shoulder, I'm picking the Jets. I am. And I think their defense, I think they're going to have the best pass rush in the league. Obviously, Sauce, I think, is easily either the best or top 2 corner in the league. So you can rush the passer, and you have a corner who can take away the entire side of the field. And you got Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder, with a lot of talent around him, plus really good running backs. Robert Saleh has to prove it. Totally agree. And betting on Robert Saleh over Sean McDermott, who has proven it, even Mike McDaniels last year was able to get to the playoff game. It's risky. But I'm sticking with the Jets. That was my gut instinct a month ago. Started pivoting. I'm going to stick with the Jets. My wild cards, I don't think there's a huge separation between the Bills and the Jets. And anytime Josh Allen, obviously they could easily win the division. They've been winning it the last 3 years. The question with them is just going to be the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. If you got Josh Allen healthy, you're making the playoffs. Same with Joe Burrow. And again, like the Bills and the Bengals, like they're right there with the Steelers and the Jets. So Bills, Bengals, it's not like I'm diminishing. I think they're both good. And I think both of them could win the AFC. And last but not least, don't love the coach, but I'm picking Herbert to win the MVP. Like, I think they could win 11 games, 12 games. Chiefs, probably just get them on a tiebreaker or sweep them or whatever. So I'm going with the Chiefs to win the division just because you have to. But I'm picking Herbert to win the MVP. So I got the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chargers as my wild card teams. And until someone knocks out KC, I'm just taking KC. I'm prepared to be wrong. I do like Pittsburgh, but it's how do I pull the trigger? Kenny Pickett over Mahomes? And I know, Kelsey could be limping around out there. Chris Jones could be at home eating ice cream. Until someone KOs the Chiefs, I'm just rolling with them. The NFC. This one's pretty easy with me on the West, the Niners. I mean, they proved it last year. They swept Seattle. They swept the division. Obviously, Arizona's going to be terrible. I think the Rams could even be worse when the injuries really start kicking in here. And the Niners swept Seattle 3 times because they played them in a playoff game as well. So I like Seattle, but I can't. I know Colin picked them to win the division. I know some other people picked them to win the division. This is not like a homer bias pick. I think the Niners are better. The NFC South, my Fresno State Bulldog, Jake Haener, got suspended 6 games for PEDs. Luckily, he's the 3rd-string quarterback. I think the Saints have absolutely no excuse not to win this division. There's no way I can pick Atlanta. I don't like their quarterback at all. There's no way I can pick Carolina. They just got weird stuff going on. And the Carolina, and Tampa obviously is going to stink as well. So I don't even see how you go outside the box on this one. I guess maybe Atlanta, if somehow Ritter proves to be like some Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones level player. I don't see that. I'm going with the Saints. I think Derek Carr I think he's going to have a good season. The NFC North, to me, this one's pretty easy. Like, I don't understand the people that don't like the Lions. Their offense is excellent, like elite. Their offense is fantastic. Their offense is going to dominate. And then defensively, yeah, they got some question marks. Obviously, their secondary, some question marks. Their defensive line could kick some serious ass. I expect Aiden Hutchinson to have that classic second year, like 15-plus sacks. I think Aiden Hutchinson, when the dust settles this year, feels like a fringe all-pro level guy, right? There's that top group, right? Bosa, TJ Watt, if you want, Parsons a linebacker, but he's in that group. The elite edge rushers. I think Aiden, Myles Garrett, his name's going to be talked about, at least entering kind of where those guys sit at the table. Like, hey, you guys got an extra seat for me? I think that conversation is going to start. I don't like the Lions. I love the Lions. I think they win that division pretty easily. Who else are you going to pick? Like, one of my bold takes is I don't think Jordan Love's the quarterback in 2024 for the Packers. The Bears, I'm sorry, even if Fields is better than he was last year, their defense could be hideous. It could be terrible. I think their defense is going to be awful. To me, the Bears, even if things go well, are much closer to an 8-win team than they are like 10. And yeah, the Vikings would make me a little nervous for sure. Cousins is the most proven quarterback in the division. I know Goff has gotten farther in the playoffs, but Cousins' numbers relative to Goff, even though last year they were basically very similar. I actually kind of like the Vikings more this year than I did last year. You get Brian Flores, a little better on defense, but that 1-score game, I think they come back to earth. I think you can win this division at 10-7, and that's what I think the Lions do. But they're just a very solid team on a weekly basis. And then I think on the East, I'm going outside the box a little bit. I think everyone's picking the Eagles. I love the Eagles too. I'm not acting like the Eagles aren't going to be sweet this year. I'm just going with Dallas. I think Dallas, a lot like I said with the Jets, like the 49ers and the Steelers, are going to have an elite defense. They are awesome at every level. Offensively, obviously McCarthy's some question marks, right? He's calling the plays. He gets rid of Kellen Moore. But how would the Eagles not have the same? They have a brand new coordinator on offense and defense. So what the Cowboys have is consistency on defense. All the same players back, same coordinator back. I think we all acknowledge now Fangio and some of the top defensive coordinator. I'm trying to think. Brian Flores, D'Amico was that. He moved on. He's a head coach now. Isn't Dan Quinn viewed in that level? Like he's an elite defensive coordinator. So I'm going with Dallas. Now, I love that division. Part of it is I think the Eagles and the winner of this division could be like 12, 11, 10. That's why I like the Eagles and the Giants both to make wildcard spots. I actually don't think there's that much crazy turnover in the NFC. And typically every year, right, you got new teams in, new teams out. Most of these teams, like in the NFC, the Niners were in it, the Cowboys were in it, the Eagles were in it, the Giants were in it, Seattle was in it. Like those are the teams I'm taking. Obviously the Saints flip-flop with Tampa and Detroit flip-flops with Minnesota. But I really don't have that much crazy turnover in my playoff teams because, like, how am I betting against all these sweet quarterbacks? I guess you could be like, well, Sean Payton. Sean Payton told Russell Wilson, stop being a politician. You're not running for office. You don't change who you are at 34 with $100 million in the bank. So it's like, I'm out on that. The Raiders, I kind of wanted to believe. I kind of wanted to pick them over the Chargers. And then one of their starting pass rushers has just gone AWOL. So and they're the Raiders. So how am I supposed to pick? Listen, I don't like Brandon Staley either, but they got Justin Herbert, and I like him a lot more than Jimmy Garoppolo. So Philly, Giants, Seattle. I think it's playoffs. I mean, I'm going Chiefs, Niners. Obviously, the Kansas City has some question marks right now. We got to get Travis Kelce healthy. We got to get Chris Jones eventually in. But as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are with Kansas City, I just can't bet against them, right? So until they lose the Super Bowl, like I'm picking them again. I just am. Niners, Chiefs, Super Bowl, little part due. I'm taking Kansas City.